Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to another movie review slash recommendation. For those who are new, I like to do these little videos about films that I enjoy and want to share. If you enjoy this video, then please consider subscribing and giving me a thumbs up and hitting that little bell icon to get notifications for when I put up new content, which is usually once or twice a week, though I am trying to work in a bit more. That way you can get that notification to pop in during the first hour that the video hits, because it really helps out the algorithm quite a bit. Okay. Now that that's all out of the way, I revisited a comfort film of mine this week. Similar to a video that I did last week for Night of the Comet, I took a trip back to the 80s again, to 1987 to be more specific, with the John Carpenter film Prince of Darkness. The synopsis for which reads as follows. A group of graduate students and scientists uncover an ancient canister in an abandoned church, but when they open the container, they inadvertently unleash a strange liquid and an evil force on all humanity. Okay, so just in that alone, we get this mystery and horror with a touch of like sci-fi meets religion kind of thrown at us there. In this film, we also get a lot of familiar John Carpenter music, because he did work on the music in this, as well as some familiar faces, in that we have Donald Pleasence, who was from a little film in the 70s called Halloween. Not this one, that's a completely different beast in my opinion. We have also Dennis Dunn and Victor Wong, who are both in Big Trouble in Little China, and Peter Jason, who I mainly know from They Live, but you're definitely sure to recognize him. That's just to name a few, that had worked with Carpenter before. But, as I've said time and time again, when it comes to films like these, it's that mystery that really pulls me in. It really pulls me in the most, and in this film, it is top tier. This professor, the priest, and the grad students spend most of their time analyzing this canister while speaking philosophically and scientifically about their findings. So each character is well written and stands out from one another, but of course there is some character fodder in there as well. Since this is a horror film, and they will only go so far with some characters, they'll let you know who they are, set them up a bit so you care a little bit about them, and then sacrifice them to the horror portion of this story before moving on to those characters that are more established, that they've spent more time letting you know, getting them a bit more fleshed out, so that way there's more sense of danger heightened because you've connected with those characters more. It's executed really well in this. So slowly this mystery is unfolding, with characters getting almost like infected or under the influence of stuff from this canister and stuff that's come out of it, kind of being taken over. They like mentally deteriorating, kind of falling apart, becoming violent, and even like physically changing through stuff that they've done. Since this is also a time when CG was only really used for like the highest budget fantasy or sci-fi films, this film is all practical. A method which many seem to really enjoy a lot about these 80s films, is that while it might not look 100% real, it really happened. There was something tangible and physical for the actors to react to. So even a bad shot, when it's practical, can still kind of pull you in better than some of the CG that they were trying in the 90s, which sometimes didn't really land all that well. So we get this very grotesque makeup on some of the characters, strange reflective effects that are happening to kind of show another side of reality. And even, the lighting and the sound gives you this very eerie feel throughout this entire film. This is one of those late night films, as I've mentioned that term before, in my opinion, in that you want to turn this one on late at night when the world is shutting down, you're in a dark room, quickly approaching whatever time you would be planning to turn in for the night. You watch it alone, cut off from everything. That late night feel for films like these really pulls me in, the more secluded that I feel as I'm checking them out. Now, this film isn't without what some would consider faults, and by all rights, I should not have really taken too well to this one, not as well as I did when it first came out in the VHS rental and cable days, as at the age that I was, I should have considered this one kind of boring and slow by comparison. And honestly, it is slow. By design, though. I feel like Carpenter does that a lot with many of his films, is that he pulls you in, gets you caught up with what's going on, slows things down to this crawl in some scenes, which can make you feel a bit trapped and cut off, because you're only able to focus on very specific things that he puts in front of you. Be it pure horror, mystery, even comedy in the cases of some of his films, which They Live comes to mind. But even in this one, though, he still throws in a tiny bit of comedy by way of Dennis Dunn's character, Walter, who is always cracking jokes, or the fact that he wrote a character named Susan, who becomes just completely forgettable to the other characters, not through anything mystical or religious or horror related. They just can't remember who this Susan is because she's such a plain kind of character. So it kind of seems like it was done on purpose, and after a few times watching it, I noticed how often characters just didn't know who the heck she even was. Now, that comedy is pretty sparse throughout this, it just kind of breaks things up a little bit, provides a slight change in those slow beats and droning music. We get this quick breath before being pulled back in and wondering what the heck is even in this container. And what does it mean? And what is with this other information that they're getting through their investigation and study? This voice, contacting them from somewhere or sometime with a warning of sorts to what's happening. So this one is definitely a comfort film for me in the way that Night of the Comet is. Maybe it's just because I grew up seeing this movie several times and I have that nostalgia factor, but I just love having this late night feel of a very cut off kind of horror film, especially when it's got a lot of mystery like this one to really get wrapped up in. And it seems like whenever people mention Carpenter, I most hear Halloween or The Thing, when it comes to horror, but I don't hear as much about this one. But when I do, it's usually from someone with that same opinion, that it feels a little bit overlooked, but is a great one, that's worth checking out. Speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this latest little video review / recommendation. This will hopefully maybe give you something to check out heading into the weekend. Now, as far as where, I don't know. Prince of Darkness I don't think is streaming anywhere for free. I think you'd have to pay for the rental, but it is worth it. And if you really are daring, just go ahead and buy the Blu-ray. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Anyways, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.